The throne room smells of incense and fear. Seneb stands before Pharaoh Khufu, 45 years old, shoulders still broad, but beginning to curve under the weight of 2 decades serving kings who believe themselves immortal. The morning light slices through high windows, catching dust motes that swirl like tiny stars. Khufu sits motionless on his throne, eyes fixed on the man who holds the future of his soul in weathered hands. 20 years Seneb has served the crown, 20 years of measuring sun shadows and tracking stars across the endless Egyptian sky. He has survived 3 pharaohs, each more demanding than the last. His hands bear the scars of bronze tools and rope burns. His eyes carry something heavier, memory. 15 years ago, his older brother Conifer stood in the same room. Conifer had been chief architect for the Temple of Hathor. The foundation drifted 3 finger widths off Truba trees, 3 finger widths. The priest discovered it during the dedication ceremony when the sunrise failed to strike the altar stone at the appointed moment. Pharaoh Khafre ordered Conifer buried alive in the foundation trench. Seneb was 30 years old when he heard his brother screaming from beneath the sand. Khufu speaks. His voice carries the certainty of a man who has never questioned whether the universe will obey him. Build me eternity, Seneb. You are the only one I trust. The words should be an honor. They feel like a sentence. Seneb bows. His knee joints protest. When he straightens, he meets the pharaoh's gaze for just a moment, long enough to see that Khufu knows about Conifer, knows about the screaming, knows that fear is the most reliable foundation for loyalty. The commission is specific, a pyramid that will serve as a stairway to the imperishable stars. The north face must align with the celestial pole. The soul of the king must have a straight path to the heavens. No deviation, no error. The pyramid must be perfect because the universe itself is perfect, unchanging, eternal. This is what the priests teach. This is what Seneb must prove. That night, Seneb sits with his wife Merit in their modest home near the palace district. She is 42, still beautiful, her hands marked by years of weaving. They have been married 24 years. She knows him better than he knows himself. You accepted, she says. It is not a question. I had no choice. You always have a choice. You just never choose us. Merit rises and walks to the window. Their son Horam is visible in the courtyard, bent over papyrus scrolls by lamplight. 24 years old, training as a palace scribe, brilliant with languages and calculations. Horam has his father's mind, but his mother's conscience. That combination makes him dangerous to himself. He resents me, Seneb says. He fears for you. Merit turns from the window. Her eyes are dry, but her voice trembles. He sees you serving tyrants. He sees you growing old, measuring stars for men who believe they are gods. He wants you to retire, to spend your remaining years with your family instead of in service to the throne. And if I retire, what becomes of him? Seneb stands, joints cracking. The palace provides for us because I provide for the palace. If I stop being useful, we stop being protected. Horam's position as scribe exists because I earned it through decades of perfect service. So you will build this pyramid. I will build this pyramid, and it will be flawless. And maybe then when it is finished, Conifer's death will mean something. Merit says nothing. They both know that no structure will ever silence the screaming Seneb still hears on quiet nights. The following morning, Seneb goes to the palace workshops to begin assembling his team. He needs skilled craftsmen for the instruments. He needs astronomers who can spend endless nights staring at the sky without losing their minds. He needs young eyes that can still see the faintest stars. He needs someone who still believes in truth. The boy appears on the third day of interviews. His name is Katie, 18 years old, son of farmers from a village 2 days south of the capital. He carries a leather satchel containing papyrus sheets covered in charcoal drawings. Star maps, crude but accurate. The boy has been watching the sky since childhood, teaching himself to recognize constellations, tracking the moon's path, noting which stars rise where and when. Seneb spreads the maps across his workbench. The detail is remarkable. The boy has marked not just the bright stars, but the dim ones, the ones most people never notice, the ones that matter for precision alignment. Where did you learn to do this? Seneb asks. No one taught me. I just watched. Every night since I was 7 years old. Why? The boy looks confused by the question. Because the sky is true. Everything else lies. People lie, priests lie, kings lie. But the stars always rise in the same place. They never change. They can be trusted. Sineb feels something twist in his chest. He was 19 when he first thought exactly those same words, before he learned that truth is a luxury only the powerless can afford. Can you dedicate 10 years to a single line in the sand? Sineb asks. The boy straightens. Master, I can dedicate my life to truth. Truth. The word hangs in the air between them like smoke. Sineb remembers when he believed that word meant something permanent. Now he knows truth is just another tool useful when it serves power, discarded when it does not. You will work under my direct supervision. You will do exactly as I instruct. You will speak to no one outside the workshop about what we do. You will swear an oath before the high priestess. If you fail, you die. If I fail, we both die. Do you understand? The boy does not hesitate. I understand, master. Sineb hires him immediately. That evening, he tells Merit about the new apprentice. She listens and then asks the question Sineb has been avoiding asking himself. Why him? Why this idealistic farmer's son? Because I need to remember what it feels like to believe. Believe in what that precision matters, that getting it right matters, that there is still something in this world worth the cost of perfection. Merit reaches across the table and takes his hand. Her fingers are warm. You have not believed that in 15 years, husband. Why start now? Sineb has no answer. Or perhaps the answer is too simple. He sees himself in the boy, the self he was before his brothers screaming taught him that survival requires compromise. The expedition to obtain the ebony takes 3 months. Sineb insists on accompanying the procurement team himself. They travel south beyond the Fourth Cataract deep into territories where Egyptian authority is a rumor and the local chiefs demand tribute. The ebony forests grow in highlands that take weeks to reach. The trees are sacred to the local people. Cutting them requires permission and payment, and sometimes violence. Sineb watches as Captain Kenti, the expedition leader, negotiates with a village elder. The conversation is tense. The elder wants grain and copper and guarantees of safe passage for his merchants. Kenti offers half of what is demanded. The elder refuses. Kenti signals his soldiers. They surround the elder's compound. The elder agrees to new terms. Sineb notices that the man's hands shake as he makes his mark on the contract papyrus. He notices the young men of the village watching from doorways, hands hidden, eyes full of hate. That night, one of the porters tries to steal a small piece of ebony. It had barely the size of a man's forearm. The porter is caught. Captain Kenti assembles the entire expedition. He makes the porter kneel in the center of camp. He announces the penalty for theft. Then he drives a bronze blade through the base of the porter's skull. Katie witnesses the execution. Sineb watches Katie watch the killing. The boy's face goes pale. His hands clench. But he says nothing. He is learning. Truth may be eternal, but justice is whatever serves the mission. The ebony logs are wrapped in cloth, soaked with tree resin, and loaded onto sledges. The return journey takes longer because the loads are heavy. Men die from heat exhaustion and snake bites and infected wounds. By the time they reach the palace workshops, 7 porters have been buried along the route. The logs arrive intact. Sineb personally supervises the inventory. Each piece of ebony is cataloged. Each log receives a painted mark indicating its intended purpose. Guards stand watch day and night. This wood is worth more than gold because gold is merely wealth. This wood will determine whether a god king finds his way to heaven. The workshop becomes a temple of anxiety. Sineb transforms the largest space into a controlled environment. Windows are covered, lamps are positioned to provide steady light. The air smells of copper tools and human sweat and fear. Sineb teaches Katie how to read the grain of the wood, how to identify knots that will compromise structural integrity, how to recognize subtle curves that will introduce error. The ebony must be cut into perfectly straight beams, perfectly flat surfaces, perfectly square corners. There is no room for approximately correct. Approximately correct means the pharaoh's soul drifts through empty space forever. The merket takes form over 6 weeks, a straight beam of ebony dense as stone. One end features a raised block where the plumb line will hang. That block must be absolutely level. If it tilts even slightly, the plumb line will cant. If the plumb line cants, the star sighting will be wrong. If the star sighting is wrong, the entire pyramid will be wrong. Katie learns to test surfaces by touch. Sineb blindfolds him and makes him drag his fingertips across the polished ebony. If he can feel even the slightest irregularity, They grind more. Hour after hour, day after day, until Katie's fingers bleed and his arms shake from exhaustion. Sineb offers no sympathy. Sympathy is for tasks that do not matter. One afternoon, a craftsman named Jehuti ruins the notch on a bay. He is carving the V-shaped sighting groove when his chisel slips. The notch becomes asymmetrical, useless. Sineb dismisses him immediately. Jehuti pleads. He has a family, 3 children, a sick wife. He will work for half wages. He will work for no wages. Just let him stay. Sineb refuses. Jehuti is escorted from the workshop by guards. That evening, Katie sees Jehuti's family outside the palace walls. The wife is weeping. The children look hungry. Katie says nothing, but Sineb sees the judgment in his eyes. You think I am cruel, Sineb says. I think precision has a cost. The cost of imprecision is higher. Would you rather I let him stay? Let him make more mistakes. Let those mistakes compound until the alignment fails and we are both buried in foundation trenches. Katie looks away. He is learning but slowly, learning that mercy is a luxury purchased with other people's suffering. The plumb line is made from twisted flax fibers, each strand tested for tensile strength. The weight at the end is carved from granite and polished until it feels like glass. Too light and it will swing in the breeze. Too heavy and it will pull the wooden frame out of true. Sineb tests dozens of weights in the courtyard, watching them settle in the still morning air, judging their stability. The night before the first alignment ceremony, Sineb and Katie are summoned to the temple of Amun-Ra. High Priestess Nefertep waits for them in a chamber lit by oil lamps. She is 55 years old, face carved by time and power. She has known Sineb for 3 decades. She was present when Kanifer was executed. She said nothing in his defense. The Merkhet and Bay are laid out on an altar. Nefertep circles them slowly, not touching, merely observing. Finally, she speaks. These tools will serve the eternal king. If they fail, you fail. If you fail, your blood will sanctify the foundation. Do you accept this burden? We accept, Sineb says. Nefertep produces a bronze knife. She cuts Sineb's palm first, then Katie's. She holds their bleeding hands over the Merkhet, letting drops fall onto the polished ebony. The wood drinks the blood. Now you are bound, she says. The tools carry your lives. Pray they serve you well. Katie's hand trembles in hers. He is 18 years old and he has just signed a contract written in his own blood. Sineb feels ancient standing beside him. That night, Sineb cannot sleep. He lies beside Merit, listening to her breathe, thinking about the ceremony tomorrow night. Everything depends on one perfect moment. The stars will cross the meridian. The plumb line will hang true. The bay will frame the target. And either they will capture that instant or they will fail and everything will end. Merit wakes in the darkness. She turns to him. Her hand finds his. Tomorrow, she whispers, tomorrow, you either save us or destroy us. Tomorrow, I do my job. She squeezes his hand. Come home to me. Whatever happens, come home. He promises. They both know it is a promise he may not be able to keep. The alignment ceremony takes place on a moonless night. The Giza Plateau has been cleared and leveled. Workers have spent months removing sand and loose stone, exposing solid bedrock. A small tent has been erected at the precise center of where the pyramid will rise. Inside that tent, Sineb and Katie wait with the Merkhet and Bay. Outside, guards form a perimeter. Priests chant low prayers that blend with the desert wind. Pharaoh Khufu observes from a distance, a dark figure against darker sky. His presence is a weight pressing down on everything. Sineb checks the Merkhet one final time. The plumb line hangs absolutely still. The air is calm. Conditions are perfect. All they need now is for the universe to cooperate. He hands the bay to Katie. You have younger eyes. You call it. Katie takes the instrument. His hands shake. Master, what if I fail? Then we both die. So do not fail. The words are harsh, but necessary. Fear sharpens focus. Katie steadies himself. He raises the bay and peers through the V-shaped notch, scanning the northern sky. The stars are brilliant tonight, uncountable points of light scattered across the black dome. Most people see chaos. Katie has been trained to see order. He finds Thuban, the pole star of this era, not the brightest star, but the most important. Thuban sits close to the north celestial pole, the point around which the entire sky appears to rotate. If they can align the pyramid to Thuban's meridian crossing, they will align it to the axis of the Earth itself. Katie watches. Minutes pass. The priests continue their chanting. The guards stand motionless. Sineb monitors the plumb line, ensuring it remains vertical. Everything depends on this moment remaining perfect. There. Katie's voice is barely a whisper. It is crossing. Sineb steps beside him. He looks over Katie's shoulder, following the line of sight through the bay's notch. Thuban creeps toward the invisible meridian line. The star that never moves is about to pass through the one point that matters. Hold steady. Katie's arms tremble. The bay gains weight with every passing second. Sweat runs down his face despite the cool night air. His entire world has collapsed into a tiny triangle of darkness, framing a single speck of ancient light. Now. Sineb barks the command. An assistant drops to his knees and drives a wooden stake into the ground directly beneath the plumb bob. Another man positioned along the sight line hammers a second stake. The two markers define a line. North. True north. The rotational axis of the world scratched into Egyptian dust. Katie lowers the bay. His hands shake violently. He looks at Sineb with eyes that ask the question his mouth cannot form. Did we succeed? Sineb inspects the stakes. He walks the line. He feels it in his bones and his blood, in the accumulated knowledge of 20 years spent studying the sky. The line is straight. The line is true. But one observation proves nothing. We repeat the measurement, he announces. The priests look irritated. Katie looks exhausted. Sineb does not care. One sighting could be luck. Two sightings that agree become law. They repeat the process the following night, and the night after that. Each time Thuban crosses the meridian, each time stakes are driven. Each time Sineb compares the new line to the previous one. The markers converge. The difference between sightings is smaller than the width of a finger. That is when certainty arrives. On the fourth morning, as the first light touches the plateau, Sineb makes his announcement. We have north. The priests immediately seize the moment for theater. They stand on the marked line and raise their arms toward the sunrise, proclaiming that the gods have delivered divine direction to the throne. They speak of miracles and blessings. They never mention the ebony beam, or the plumb cord, or the bone notch. They transform human calculation into celestial revelation. The workers believe every word. They have no choice. Mystery is easier to accept than the terrifying precision required to weaponize mathematics. Sineb watches the performance in silence. He knows what actually happened. No god handed him a compass. He and Katie dismantled the sky star by star and converted it into a line scratched in stone. The pyramid will be built on that line. Millions of blocks will be placed according to that line. And if the line is wrong, everything built upon it will be wrong forever. That evening, Sineb returns home. Merit meets him at the door. She searches his face. Did you succeed? We have north. She embraces him. Her body shakes with relief. For a moment, they stand together in the doorway, two people who have survived another day in a world where small errors mean death. Horam appears from inside the house. He looks at his father with an expression Sineb cannot quite read. Pride, resentment, fear, perhaps all three. Congratulations, father. You have earned the right to serve another decade. The words are meant to wound. They succeed. Sineb releases Merit and walks past his son without responding. There is nothing to say. Horam is right. Sineb has just committed himself to 10 more years of service. 10 more years of choosing the throne over his family. 10 more years of proving that survival requires sacrifice. The construction frenzy begins. Workers carve trenches directly along the marked lines, cutting into bedrock. The pyramid's foundation will not sit on sand. It will be carved from the plateau itself. The north-facing edge receives obsessive attention. Every measurement is verified twice. Every angle is checked and rechecked. The north face is the edge that speaks to the stars. There can be no error. As the first course of blocks rises, Sineb uses the Merkhet to verify that the construction matches the celestial alignment. At true noon, when the sun reaches its highest point, he observes the shadow cast by a vertical rod placed on the north-south line. The shadow falls exactly along the axis they established. The heavens and the ground agree. Katie assists with every measurement. He is no longer the uncertain boy who arrived with star maps in a leather satchel. He is becoming a skilled astronomer in his own right. Sineb watches him grow more confident, more precise, more committed to the idea that absolute accuracy is achievable. This should make Sineb proud. Instead, it fills him with dread. The boy still believes truth is inviolable. Life has not yet taught him that truth bends when power demands it. The years pass. Stone stacks upon stone. The pyramid rises in tiers like a massive staircase climbing toward the sky. Supply caravans arrive daily carrying limestone from quarries across the Nile. Copper tools are sharpened and resharpened until the bronze wears thin. Men are injured and replaced. Some die. The work continues. Sineb ages. His hair turns gray at the temples. His back develops a permanent ache from decades of bending over instruments. His hearing begins to fade. At night, he takes longer to fall asleep and wakes more frequently. Merritt says nothing, but he sees her watching him with concern. Katie ages too, though more slowly. At 25, he has filled out his shoulders, broadened by years of labor, his face weathered by sun and wind. He has become deputy to Sineb, trusted with independent measurements and calculations. He is good. Maybe better than Sineb was at that age. This should be reassuring. It is not. 7 years after the first alignment, the pyramid stands 100 meters tall. 600,000 blocks have been set. The structure dominates the plateau, visible from miles away, a mountain of white limestone that burns in the afternoon sun. Sineb is 52 years old. His body is failing in small, accumulating ways. Chronic back pain that wakes him at night, hearing loss in his left ear, early cataracts that blur his vision at the edges. He compensates, he adapts. He continues, his reputation has never been higher. Palace officials refer to him as Sineb the Unshakable, the man who aligned the greatest structure in Egypt to the pole of the heavens, the man whose measurements are so precise that not a single block has needed repositioning, the man who will leave a legacy that outlasts empires. Sineb knows the truth. Legacy is just another word for what survives after you are too dead to defend it. Katie is 25 now. He has been conducting routine verification measurements for 2 years, checking that the rising tiers of stone still align with the original north axis. It is tedious work, but essential. Stone settles. Foundations shift. Vigilance is the price of permanence. One evening, Katie returns from the observation platform, looking troubled. Sineb is reviewing papyrus scrolls detailing the next week's construction schedule. He notices Katie's expression but says nothing. He has learned that young men need time to formulate their concerns before voicing them. Finally, Katie speaks. Master Thuban seems shifted. Sineb looks up from his scrolls. Shifted how I cannot describe it precisely. The star is where it should be, but the position feels wrong. It takes longer to center in the bay's notch. The timing is off by a small amount. Sineb sets down his reed pen. Your eyes are tired. We have all been working long hours. Trust the original marks. The ground does not lie. But Master, you taught me to trust the sky, not the ground. The words land like stones. Sineb feels something cold settle in his stomach. He has taught Katie to believe that celestial observations are absolute truth. He has taught him that human measurements should always defer to what the stars reveal. He has taught him principles that, if followed consistently, will destroy them both. The original alignment was performed with care, Sineb says slowly. We verified it across multiple nights. We checked and rechecked. The marks are sound. What you are sensing is fatigue, or atmospheric distortion, or the instrument settling, not the sky changing. Katie nods, but Sineb sees doubt lingering in his eyes. The boy is not convinced. He is merely deferring to authority. For now. That night, Sineb cannot sleep. He lies beside Merritt, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Katie's observation. The star feels wrong. Timing is off. These are the words of someone whose eyes are still sharp, whose mind is still uncluttered by politics and fear. These are the words of someone who might be right. Sineb rises quietly and walks to his private workspace. He retrieves his oldest papyrus scrolls, the ones containing the original alignment calculations from 7 years ago. He spreads them across his workbench and studies them by lamplight. The dates, the star positions, the meridian crossing times, all recorded with meticulous precision. Then he retrieves more recent scrolls, the verification measurements Katie has been conducting over the past year. Sineb compares them. He looks for patterns. He searches for drift. It is there, subtle but present. Thuban's meridian crossing time has shifted. Not by much, a few minutes over several years. Most observers would dismiss it as instrument error or atmospheric variation. But Sineb has spent 30 years watching stars. He knows the difference between noise and signal. The pole star is moving. No, that is impossible. The stars are eternal. The celestial sphere rotates, but the stars themselves are fixed upon it. The pole does not wander. This is fundamental. This is doctrine. This is what the priests teach and what the astronomers accept and what the entire cosmology of Egypt depends upon. But the numbers do not lie. Thuban is drifting away from the true celestial pole, slowly, imperceptibly to casual observation, but measurably to anyone with instruments precise enough and time enough to notice. Sineb sits back from the scrolls. His hands are shaking. If the pole star drifts, then the alignment they carved into the bedrock is not eternal. It is matched to a specific moment in time, a snapshot of the sky as it appeared 7 years ago. The pyramid is being built to aim at a point that is already sliding away. In 1,000 years, Thuban will be nowhere near the pole. The shafts carved to point toward it will point at empty sky. The entire celestial machinery they have constructed will be obsolete. Merritt finds him at dawn, still sitting at his workbench, surrounded by papyrus. She touches his shoulder. "Husband, you have not slept." Sineb looks at her. His eyes are red. His face is gray. "I need you to promise me something. Anything. If I die before the pyramid is complete, you and Horem must leave the capital. Go south to your sister's village. Live quietly. Do not claim my legacy. Do not tell anyone you were my family. Just disappear." Merritt's hand tightens on his shoulder. "What have you discovered?" "Nothing, perhaps nothing. I do not know yet, but she sees the lie. She has been married to him for 29 years. She knows when he is afraid, and Sineb is terrified." The next weeks pass in a fog of routine. Sineb continues supervising construction. He reviews measurements. He approves placements. He maintains the appearance of control. But at night he returns to his scrolls. He compares observations. He recalculates. He hopes to find an error in his analysis. He finds only confirmation. Katie continues his verification work. He says nothing more about Thuban feeling wrong, but Sineb notices him spending longer at the observation platform, taking more readings than necessary, recording data in a personal notebook that he keeps separate from the official records. The boy suspects something. He is doing exactly what Sineb taught him to do. Observe carefully, record meticulously, trust the data over doctrine. These were supposed to be virtues. Now they are threats. 14 years after the project began, the pyramid is 90% complete. Only the uppermost tiers remain. The structure towers 130 meters above the plateau. Inside passages and chambers have been carved according to precise astronomical alignments. One shaft aims south toward the belt of Orion's celestial home of Osiris. Another aims north toward the region surrounding Thuban. Sineb is 59 years old. His body has become a catalog of complaints. His joints ache in the morning. His vision has deteriorated to the point where he must hold papyrus at arm's length to read it. His hands shake when he holds instruments steady. He is aging out of usefulness. Soon someone younger will need to take his place. Someone whose eyes are sharper, whose hands are steadier. Someone like Katie. Horem visits him at the construction site. His son is 38 now, a senior palace scribe with responsibilities that extend across multiple departments. He has a wife and 2 children. He has built a life that exists independent of his father's shadow. This should make Sineb happy. Instead, it makes him feel obsolete. They walk together along the pyramid's base away from the noise of workers and overseers. Horem waits until they are out of earshot before speaking. "Father, there are rumors. There are always rumors. These are different. Palace officials are questioning whether the alignment may be flawed." Sineb stops walking. His heart begins to race. "What have you heard?" "Nothing specific, just whispers. People saying that the star readings do not match the original charts, that measurements have been changing over the years, that maybe the foundation was not as perfect as claimed." "Who is spreading these rumors?" Horem hesitates. "Your apprentice, Katie. He has been sharing his concerns with other astronomers, showing them his calculations. Some of them are listening. Sineb closes his eyes. The fear he has been carrying for 7 years crystallizes into certainty. The truth has escaped. Katie's observations are no longer private doubts. They are becoming public knowledge, and public knowledge becomes political ammunition. I need to speak with him, Sineb says. Father, is it true? Is the alignment flawed? Sineb looks at his son. He sees Khan Nefer in Horem's face. The same intelligent eyes, the same moral certainty, the same dangerous belief that truth matters more than survival. No, he says, the alignment is sound. Katie is confused. His instruments need recalibration. I will handle it. Horem does not look convinced, but he nods. Handle it quickly, Father. The high priestess is watching. If she perceives weakness, she will exploit it. They return to the construction site in silence. Sineb feels the weight of the pyramid pressing down on him, 2 million blocks of stone anchored to a line that is already obsolete. That evening, Sineb summons Katie to his private workspace. The room is small and windowless, lit by oil lamps that cast shadows across shelves filled with instruments and scrolls. Katie enters and immediately senses the atmosphere. He has been expecting this conversation. Sineb does not waste time with pleasantries. You have been sharing your observations with others. Katie meets his eyes. I have been sharing data. Other astronomers have the right to see it. You have been undermining my authority. You have been suggesting that the alignment is flawed. I have been suggesting that the pole star is moving. The alignment may be perfectly executed, but aimed at a transient target. There is a difference. Sineb rises from his chair. He moves to stand directly in front of Katie. They are the same height now. The boy has grown, not a boy anymore. A man with principles that will get him killed. Listen to me very carefully. What you have discovered is true. I have known for 7 years that Thuban is drifting. I have the same calculations you do. Perhaps more. I have been watching this drift since before you noticed it. Katie's eyes widen. Then why did you not report it? Why did you let the construction continue based on an alignment you knew would become obsolete? Because reporting it would have ended the project, or ended me, or both. Pharaoh Khufu does not want to hear that his eternal pathway is temporary. The priests do not want to admit that the imperishable stars are changing, and I do not want to be buried alive in a foundation trench like my brother. The words hang in the air between them. Katie stares at Sineb as if seeing him for the first time. Master, you taught me to honor truth above everything. You said precision was sacred. You said the stars could be trusted. I taught you what I needed you to believe so you would do your job. But I have spent 30 years learning that truth without power is just noise. Your truth will kill us both. So we lie. We let Pharaoh Khufu believe his soul will find its way to heaven when we know the pathway will be pointing at empty sky in a few centuries. We build what we are paid to build. We measure what we are told to measure. We survive. That is the job. That is all it has ever been. Katie steps back. His face has gone pale. You were different when I met you, he says quietly. Or maybe I was just too young to see what you really were. I was exactly the same. You were too idealistic to notice. 14 years of watching stone stack on stone should have taught you that idealism is a luxury for people who do not have families to protect. Your family. Katie's voice rises. Everything is about protecting your family. What about my family? What about the truth? What about doing what is right instead of what is convenient? Right gets you killed. Convenient keeps you alive. I am 59 years old. I have survived because I learned to choose survival. You are 32. You still have time to learn, but you are running out of time quickly. Katie turns toward the door. Before he leaves, he looks back. I will not stop reporting what I have observed. If you want me silent, you will have to make me silent. The door closes. Sineb stands alone in the lamplight, feeling older than his years. He has just lost the last person who believed he was capable of honor. The next morning, Neferhotep sends a summons. Sineb is to report to the temple immediately. This is not a request. He arrives to find the high priestess waiting in her private chamber. She is 60 now, face like carved stone eyes that miss nothing. She gestures for him to sit but remains standing herself. A power move. subtle but effective. Your apprentice has been making claims, she says. Claims about star positions changing, claims about the pyramid's alignment becoming obsolete. These claims disturb the priests. They disturb me. Katie is young. He is enthusiastic. He sometimes sees patterns that are not there. Is he wrong? The question is simple. The answer will determine everything. Sineb could confirm Katie's observations, validate his data, stand behind the truth. But standing behind truth means standing against the throne. And the throne does not tolerate contradiction. He is wrong, Sineb says. His instruments need recalibration. I will personally oversee the corrections. Nefertep studies him. She has known him for 3 decades. She knows when he is lying. But she also knows that some lies are more useful than truths. See that you do, she says, and see that he stops spreading confusion. The pharaoh's eternal pathway must not be questioned. I will handle it. Handle it thoroughly, Sineb. We cannot afford doubt, not now when the pyramid nears completion. There will be a final verification of the ceremony before we seal the king's chamber. I will personally attend. The instruments will be tested. The measurements will be demonstrated before witnesses. If there is any deviation, any hint of error, those responsible will be held accountable. Completely. The threat is clear. Sineb bows and withdraws. He has 1 week before the ceremony. 1 week to decide whether to betray Katie or betray everything he has spent 30 years building. 1 week to choose between truth and survival. He chooses survival. He always chooses survival. The verification ceremony is held in a large tent erected near the pyramid's north face. Inside, the Merked Bay have been placed on a raised platform. Oil lamps burn low to preserve night vision. Priests line the walls, they're chanting a low drone that buzzes beneath the silence. Katie arrives escorted by guards. His hands are bound. Not tightly, but the message is clear. He is not here as an honored astronomer. He is here as a suspect on trial. Nefertep stands beside the platform. Behind her, palace officials observe with expressions of careful neutrality. Among them, Sineb spots Horem. His son's face is rigid, unreadable. He has been sent to witness what happens when truth confronts power. Sineb takes his position at the Merkhet. His hands are steady. 30 years of practice have trained them to ignore fear. Katie is brought forward and given the Baithimum. Raise it, Nefertep commands. Show us what you claim to have seen. Katie lifts the instrument. His hands shake. He is 32 years old, and he is about to prove that the entire foundation of Egyptian cosmology is a lie, or he is about to be exposed as delusional. Either way, his life is ending tonight. He finds Thuban. The star sits in the sky exactly where it should be, exactly where it has always been. Except it is not quite where it should be according to the original marks from 14 years ago. The difference is small, a fraction of a degree. Most observers would never notice. But Katie has been watching for years. He knows. He aims the bay according to the star. An assistant positions the Merkhet to match the sightline. Stakes are driven. Then they compare the new line to the old marks carved into the stone floor of the tent. The lines do not match. The deviation is tiny, a finger's width over a distance of 10 meters. But it is there, undeniable. The pole star has moved. Silence fills the tent. The priests stop chanting. The officials lean forward. Nefertep's expression does not change, but her eyes narrow. She looks at Katie, then at Sineb. Explain this, she says. Katie opens his mouth to speak, but Sineb cuts him off. The young man has been recording measurements incorrectly. His technique has degraded over the years. He confuses small errors in his own positioning with changes in celestial positions. The deviation we see tonight is not the star moving. It is operator error. Katie stares at Sineb. The betrayal is complete. He tries to speak, but his voice comes out as a whisper. Master, you know that is not true. You saw the calculations. You verified them yourself. Tell them. Sineb does not look at him. I verified that your technique needed correction. I have been attempting to retrain you, but your pride prevented you from accepting instruction. You have been keeping unauthorized records. You have been drawing conclusions based on flawed data. The original alignment stands. The pyramid is true. The problem is not the stars. The problem is you. The tent seems to contract. Katie's face goes white. He looks around at the assembled witnesses. The priests, the officials. Horam. No one meets his eyes. He is alone. You taught me to choose truth, Katie says. His voice is stronger now, carrying across the space. You taught me precision was sacred. You taught me the stars never lie. Why can you not follow your own teaching? Sineb finally looks at him. Because I learned something you have not. Truth is a tool, not a god. It serves those who wield it correctly. You wield it like a child wielding a blade, cutting yourself and everyone around you. Neferhotep raises her hand. The discussion ends. The young man's measurements are unreliable. His conclusions are false. He has spread confusion and doubt. This cannot be tolerated. Guards remove him. They drag Katie from the tent. He does not struggle, but he keeps his eyes locked on Sineb until the last moment. The look contains no anger. Only sadness, only understanding. Only the recognition that his master, his teacher, the man he trusted above all others, chose cowardice over conscience. After he is gone, Neferhotep addresses the assembled witnesses. The alignment is verified. The pyramid will stand eternal. Any further questions about the celestial readings will be directed to Master Sineb, whose decades of faithful service prove his reliability. This matter is closed. The ceremony ends. The witnesses disperse. Sineb stands alone by the Merkhet, feeling the weight of what he has done settle into his bones like cold. Horam approaches. He does not speak. He does not need to. Father and son look at each other across a distance measured not in meters, but in choices. Finally, Horam says, "You did what you had to do. It is not forgiveness. It is acknowledgement." The two are not the same. "Yes," Sineb says, "I did what I had to do." Horam leaves. Sineb remains in the tent long after the lamps burn low. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the pyramid, Katie is being led away to a fate Sineb does not want to imagine. A quarry, a border garrison, a forgotten labor camp, places where inconvenient people disappear. Sineb thinks about his brother Conifer, about the screaming that stopped after 3 days. He wonders if Katie will scream. He wonders if anyone will hear. He wonders if he will ever sleep again. 5 years pass. The pyramid is complete. The capstone covered in electrum that catches the sun, like captured fire, has been lifted into place. The casing stones polished until they gleam like mirrors cover every surface. From a distance, the structure appears to be a single piece of white stone rising from the desert, so perfect it seems unreal. Pharaoh Khufu dies in his 63rd year. The funeral is the largest Egypt has ever witnessed. Priests and officials and foreign dignitaries fill the capital. The king's body, preserved with a natron and wrapped in linen, is carried in procession to the pyramid. Sineb watches from a respectful distance, standing among the lesser officials, no longer central to events. The body is placed in the king's chamber, deep within the pyramid. The priests seal the passages with granite plugs that weigh several tons each. The sound of stone grinding against stone echoes through the corridors, final and absolute. Khufu's soul now has its pathway to the stars. The shaft aimed north toward Thuban. The shaft aimed south toward Orion, all perfectly aligned according to the celestial coordinates established 19 years ago. Sineb knows that in 500 years those shafts will point at empty sky. Thuban will have drifted away. New stars will occupy the pole. But Khufu will not care. Khufu will be dust, and the pyramid will still stand a monument to precision that was perfect for exactly one moment in cosmic time. Sineb is 64 years old. His body has become a collection of pains and limitations. His back forces him to walk with a cane. His vision is so poor that he can no longer read his own notes without holding them at awkward angles. His hands shake constantly. He has become what he always feared: bold, irrelevant, useless. Merit still lives, though she is frail. Their home is quiet now. Horam visits once a month, bringing his children, but the conversations are strained. Too much history sits between them. Too many choices that cannot be undone. One afternoon, a woman appears at Sineb's door. She is perhaps 28 years old, plainly dressed, carrying a small bundle wrapped in linen. She introduces herself as Neferet, Katie's younger sister. Sineb feels his heart stop. He has not heard Katie's name spoken aloud in 5 years. He assumed the boy was dead, perhaps wished he was dead because death would at least end the guilt. "May I come in?" Neferet asks. Her voice is calm. She does not seem angry. This somehow makes everything worse. Sineb leads her to his workspace. Merritt brings water and then withdraws, sensing this is a conversation not meant for witnesses. Neferet sits and unwraps the bundle. Inside is a piece of limestone roughly the size of two hands. Carved into the surface are words in hieratic script. My brother died 2 years ago, Neferet says. He was sent to a granite quarry near Aswan. The work was hard. He was not built for that kind of labor. He lasted 3 years. Sineb cannot speak. His throat has closed. He stares at the limestone. Before he died, he asked me to bring you this. He spent his last months carving it, using stolen tools in the night after the overseers fell asleep. He wanted you to have it. Sineb forces himself to read the inscription. The hieratic is crude but legible. Master Sineb, I forgive you. You chose love over truth. In your position, I might have chosen the same. But I hope you remember that truth exists whether we honor it or not. The stars do not care about our politics. They keep moving. They keep revealing themselves to those who watch. I watched until I could no longer see. I hope someone else will continue watching. Your student, Katie. Sineb's vision blurs. He is not sure if it is the cataracts or tears. Both, perhaps. He runs his fingers over the carved words. Katie spent his last strength on this. On forgiveness. On releasing Sineb from guilt, while simultaneously ensuring the guilt would be permanent. He was a good man, Neferet says quietly. Better than most. He believed you were two once. I think he still believed it at the end. He just thought you forgot how to be good. That fear made you forget. She stands to leave. Sineb finds his voice. I am sorry. The words are inadequate. They are all he has. I know, Neferet says. So was he. Sorry that truth was not enough to save him. Sorry that precision did not matter. Sorry that he gave 14 years to a project that valued perfection less than power. She leaves the limestone on his workbench and walks to the door. Before she exits, she turns back. One more thing. My brother wanted you to know that he kept watching the stars even in the quarry. He carved marks on stone. He recorded positions. He tracked Thuban's drift until his hands became too broken to hold a stylus. He never stopped being an astronomer. He never stopped being your student. I thought you should know that. Then she is gone. Sineb sits alone with the limestone. Merritt comes in and finds him weeping. She holds him while he breaks this man who has spent 64 years holding himself together through discipline and denial. He cries for Katie. He cries for Conifer. He cries for every choice he made that kept him alive but killed something essential inside him. That night he makes a decision. He will not let Katie's truth die. He cannot report it publicly. He cannot vindicate the boy openly. But he can preserve what Katie discovered. He can hide it where future generations might find it. He can leave a record that shows someone knew, someone understood, someone refused to let the lie be complete. Sineb retrieves papyrus and ink. His hands shake, but he writes carefully. He documents everything. The original alignment calculations, the observed drift of Thuban over 19 years, Katie's measurements and conclusions, his own confirmation of the data, the ceremony where he betrayed his student to save his son. He writes his confession. I chose my son's life over a young man's truth. I chose wrong, but I chose with love. Let future generations judge me. Let them know that I was not ignorant. I knew. I chose survival over honesty. I chose fear over courage. I chose to be remembered as Sineb the Unshakable, when the truth is that I shook every night for 19 years. He seals the papyrus in a ceramic jar. He takes the jar to the tomb workers who are preparing his burial chamber. His tomb will be modest compared to the pharaoh's, but respectable for a man of his station. He pays the workers to place the jar in a hidden niche behind a false wall. The jar will be sealed with the tomb, found only if someone looks carefully. Only if someone cares to look. He also places Katie's limestone in the jar, the forgiveness and the accusation together. Both deserved, both permanent. Horam visits the next day. He finds his father in the courtyard, sitting in shade, staring at nothing. Father, you look unwell. I am well enough. Old, but well enough. Horam sits beside him. They are silent for a long time. Finally, Horam speaks. The matter with Katie. You did what you had to do. You protected us. I understand why you made that choice. Do you? Sineb looks at his son. Do you really understand? Because I am not sure I do anymore. You kept our family safe. You kept our positions secure. Katie was going to destroy everything with his obsession with truth. You stopped him. I murdered him. Perhaps not with a blade, but with silence. I sent him to die in a quarry because he was right and I was afraid of what would happen if people knew he was right. Horam flinches. Father, do not do this to yourself. Why not? Should I pretend the choice was noble? Should I pretend I am still Sineb the unshakable instead of Sineb the coward? You are not a coward. You are a survivor. In a world where speaking truth means death, silence is not cowardice. It is wisdom. Sineb laughs. It is a bitter sound. Is that what you tell yourself? That silence is wisdom? I taught you that? I taught you to serve power instead of truth. I taught you to be a palace parrot who repeats whatever keeps him fed. And now you are teaching your children the same lesson. Compromise. Survive. Do not make waves. Let truth die quietly rather than defend it loudly. Horam stands. His face has gone red. You do not get to judge me. You made me what I am. You chose this path for our family. I know, that is what makes it unbearable. Horam leaves without saying goodbye. Sineb sits in the courtyard until sunset, watching shadows lengthen. Merritt brings him food, but he does not eat. He is thinking about Katie carving messages on stone in a quarry, hands broken, eyes failing, still trying to record the truth until the very end. That is courage. What Sineb has been calling wisdom is just elaborate justification for cowardice. 2 years pass. Sineb's health declines further. His breathing becomes labored. His heart beats irregularly. He knows he is dying. The knowledge brings relief. He has been waiting to die since the night he betrayed Katie. Merritt tends to him with the same quiet competence she has shown for 46 years of marriage. She does not ask about his tears or his nightmares. She simply holds him when the nights grow long. That is enough. That is more than he deserves. Horam returns. He brings his children to say goodbye to their grandfather. Sineb looks at them and wonders what they will learn. Will they learn to serve power? Will they learn that truth is negotiable? Will they learn that a man can build wonders and still be hollow inside? He hopes they learn to be better than him. He does not say this aloud. Some lessons are too bitter to speak. On his last night, Sineb dreams of Thuban. The star drifts across the sky, slow and inexorable, moving away from the pole toward regions unknown. He dreams of Katie watching the star from a quarry, carving marks on stone, refusing to stop observing, even when observation can change nothing. He dreams of the pyramid standing empty under stars that no longer align with its shafts. He wakes briefly near dawn. Merritt is beside him. He whispers to her, "Tell Horam I am sorry. Tell him I loved him. Tell him I chose him over everything else. But tell him that choosing does not make the choice right." "What does make a choice right?" Merritt asks. "I do not know anymore. I thought I knew. I was wrong about many things." Those are his last words. Sineb the Unshakable dies at age 66. His funeral is well attended. Palace officials speak of his contributions, his precision, his dedication, his role in building the greatest monument Egypt has ever known. No one mentions Katie. No one speaks of the drift of Thuban. The official history is clean and simple. Sineb was a great man who did great work. That is all. Horam oversees the burial. He ensures the ceramic jar with the papyrus and limestone is sealed in the hidden niche exactly as his father requested. He does not read the contents. He does not want to know. Knowing changes nothing except how guilty you feel. The tomb is sealed. Sineb's name is carved above the entrance. Time begins its work of forgetting. Centuries pass like water. The pyramid endures. The casing stones are eventually stolen to build mosques in Cairo. The electrum capstone disappears. The passages are ransacked by tomb robbers seeking gold that was never there. But the structure itself remains. The alignment remains, perfect for the moment it was created, increasingly wrong as time carries the stars away from their ancient positions. 500 years after Sineb's death, Thuban is noticeably distant from the celestial pole. Astronomers notice but do not understand. The concept of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, will not be discovered for another 1,000 years. The pyramid's misalignment becomes a mystery. How could the ancient builders be so precise and yet so wrong? 1,000 years later, the Merkhet and Bay techniques are forgotten. New kingdoms rise and fall. The knowledge of how to weaponize the night sky is lost. Priests invent new stories to explain the pyramid, stories involving cuisine and magic and divine revelation. The boring truth that it was built by careful men using precise instruments and patient observation is too mundane to survive. 2,000 years later, Greeks visit Giza. They measure the pyramid. They calculate angles. They are astounded by the precision. How did these ancient people achieve such accuracy without advanced tools, the Greeks theorize? They speculate. They invent. They never guessed that the secret was simple. Fear, fear of failure, fear of death, fear sharp enough to make human hands steady. 4,500 years after Seneb's first alignment, archaeologists excavate his tomb. They are not looking for him specifically. His tomb is modest, unremarkable, but they catalog everything, including a ceramic jar hidden in a niche behind a false wall. The jar is opened in a laboratory. Inside are papyrus scrolls and a carved limestone. The papyrus is fragile but readable. It takes weeks to translate. When the translation is complete, the team leader, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, calls a meeting. She is 67 years old, a lifetime spent studying ancient Egypt. She has excavated dozens of tombs and translated hundreds of texts. But this one is different. This one is a confession, a detailed account of how the Great Pyramid was aligned with inhuman precision, not because the builders were superhuman, but because they were afraid of being buried alive if they failed. The text describes the Merkhet in Bay, the ebony from Africa, the patient observations of Thuban, the discovery that the pole star was drifting, the young astronomer named Katie who reported the drift, the betrayal by his master, the cover-up, the guilt. Dr. Mitchell reads the confession aloud to her team. When she finishes, the room is silent. Then one of the younger archaeologists speaks. So the pyramid was obsolete the moment it was finished. They knew it would not point at the pole star forever. They built it anyway. They built it because the alternative was death, Dr. Mitchell says. Seneb chose his son's life over a young man's truth. Was he wrong? The question hangs in the air. No one answers. Perhaps there is no answer. Perhaps some choices are simply tragic regardless of what you choose. The limestone message from Katie is displayed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. The papyrus confession is archived for further study. News of the discovery spreads through academic circles. Popular articles are written. Ancient astronomer discovered precession thousands of years before Hipparchus. Great Pyramid's alignment was intentionally temporary. Egyptian cover-up revealed after 4 millennia. But the real story is simpler. A man was given an impossible task. He succeeded, he compromised, he betrayed, he survived. He left a confession because living with the secret was worse than dying with it. In a suburb of Chicago, a retired engineer named Robert Chen reads about the discovery. He is 68 years old, spent 40 years working for a defense contractor. Good career, comfortable retirement. But lately he has been thinking about choices he made, projects he approved even though the data was questionable, colleagues he failed to defend when defending them would have cost him his own position. Small betrayals. Nothing dramatic, nothing that ended with anyone dying in a quarry, but betrayals nonetheless. He reads about Seneb and Katie. He thinks about being 64 years old and knowing you destroyed someone's life to protect your own. He thinks about whether survival is always worth the cost. His wife finds him sitting in his study at 2 in the morning, staring at the article on his tablet. "What are you reading?" she asks. "Just a story about ancient Egypt, about choices, about what it costs to build something that lasts." She sits beside him. "Are you okay? I am thinking about whether I was a good man or just a successful one. You were both. I am not sure anymore. I am not sure I was either." She takes his hand. "We did what we had to do to survive. We raised our children. We built a life. That matters." "Yes," he says, "that matters. But so did the truth. So did the people we did not defend. So did the compromises we pretended were wisdom." They sit together in the quiet house. Outside, stars rotate around the celestial pole. The pole itself drifts imperceptibly, carrying the stars along ancient paths that humans once thought were fixed. Nothing is permanent. Not pyramids, not stars, not the choices that seem so crucial in the moment. Back in Egypt, the pyramid stands. Its north face still points toward the coordinates established by Sineb and Kati 46 centuries ago. But Thuban has wandered away. The shafts aim at empty sky. The eternal pathway has led nowhere for thousands of years. Yet people still come to look at the structure. They still marvel at the precision. They still ask how ancient people achieved such accuracy. They want to believe in aliens or lost civilizations or divine intervention. They resist the simple truth that humans with primitive tools and unlimited fear can accomplish anything if the alternative is death. Dr. Mitchell gives a lecture about the discovery. She stands before a packed auditorium and projects images of the papyrus confession. She reads Sineb's words aloud. I chose my son's life over a young man's truth. I chose wrong, but I chose with love. Let future generations judge me. After the lecture, a young graduate student approaches. How do you judge him, she asks. Was he a villain or a victim? Dr. Mitchell considers the question. She thinks about being 67 years old and looking back at decades of choices, opportunities she took that meant someone else lost an opportunity, papers she published that contradicted colleagues who could not defend themselves, grants she won by being slightly less honest than she should have been. He was both, she finally says, and neither. He was human. He was afraid. He did what he thought he had to do to protect what mattered to him. And he paid for it by living with guilt for 20 years. That is not villainy. That is tragedy. But Kati paid more. Yes, Kati paid more. That is why tragedy is tragic. The graduate student nods. She is 26 years old. She has not yet faced the choices that will define her character. She does not yet know what she will sacrifice when her moment comes. Dr. Mitchell envies her that innocence. The lecture ends. People disperse. Dr. Mitchell packs her notes and thinks about flying back to Boston tomorrow. Back to her own life and her own choices and her own compromises. That evening, she visits Giza one last time. She stands at the base of the pyramid as the sun sets. The limestone glows amber in the horizontal light. Above, stars begin appearing. First the bright ones, then the dim ones, then the ones only visible to careful observers who know where to look. She tries to find Thuban. It takes her several minutes. The star is not near the pole anymore. It sits dozens of degrees away, just another dim point in an overcrowded sky. But for a brief moment, 46 centuries ago, it was the center. It was the hinge on which the heavens turned, and men died to measure its position accurately. Doctor? Mitchell thinks about Sineb, about Kati, about Horem caught between his father's guilt and his own need to survive, about Merit holding her husband while he wept, about Neferet bringing a limestone message across years and miles because her brother asked her to, about all the unnamed people whose choices built the pyramid and whose names are forgotten. The pyramid is still here. The people are dust. The stars have moved. The truth survived, but only barely hidden in a ceramic jar behind a false wall, waiting 4,000 years to be heard. Was it worth it? Dr. Mitchell does not know. She is not sure anyone can know. Perhaps the only honest answer is that it was necessary. Sineb did what humans do. He survived. He compromised. He betrayed. He tried to make it right after it was too late to matter. The stars continue their rotation. The pole continues its slow drift. In another 26,000 years, Thuban will return to the celestial pole. The pyramid will be accurate again, perfect again, but no one will care. The people who built it will have been forgotten for 20,000 years by then. Dr. Mitchell walks back to her hotel. Tomorrow she will fly home. She will write papers. She will give lectures. She will tell Sineb's story to people who will judge him from the safety of distance and time. And she will think about her own choices, the people she failed to defend, the truth she compromised, the small betrayals that seemed necessary in the moment. She will wonder if she is writing about Sineb or about herself. She will wonder if there is a difference. The pyramid stands. The stars move. The choice remains. Build something that lasts or defend what is true. Serve or resist. Love or principle. Fear or courage. Sineb chose survival. Kati chose truth. Both paid the price. History remembers Sineb's name because he finished the project. History forgot Kati's name because he told the truth. That is not justice. That is just how the world works. In Chicago, Robert Chen closes his tablet. He turns off the light. He lies in bed beside his wife and thinks about mercy. Maybe mercy is understanding that everyone is compromised. Everyone is afraid. Everyone chooses survival over principle sometimes. And maybe wisdom is not learning to stop compromising. Maybe wisdom is learning to live with the guilt. Or maybe that is just what cowards tell themselves so they can sleep. Robert Chen closes his eyes. He does not know which it is. He suspects no one does. He suspects Seneb did not know either. He suspects the answer is different for every person who faces the question. Choose truth or choose survival. Defend what is right or protect what is yours. The stars continue their ancient dance, indifferent to human choices, indifferent to human guilt. They rotate around a pole that slowly drifts across millennia. They shine on pyramids built by people who thought they were building eternity, but were really building snapshots. Moments frozen in stone, perfect for an instant, obsolete forever after. Morning comes. Dr. Mitchell boards her flight. Robert Chen wakes and makes coffee. Somewhere a student reads about the Great Pyramid and wonders about aliens. Somewhere a teacher explains that humans built it using simple tools and complex mathematics. Somewhere someone visits Giza and stares up at the structure and thinks how strange it is that something so permanent was built by people so temporary. The pyramid stands. The confession is archived. The truth is known. But knowing changes nothing except how we see the structure. It is still precisely aligned to coordinates that no longer matter. It is still perfectly wrong, still beautifully obsolete, still standing after 46 centuries as a monument to fear and love and compromise and guilt. Seneba built eternity. He failed. But the failure is more impressive than most successes. The pyramid still stands, still speaks, still forces people across millennia to ask themselves the same questions Seneb faced. What would you sacrifice to protect what you love? What would you betray to survive? The answer is different for everyone, but the question is eternal. As eternal as stars, as eternal as stone, as eternal as the slow rotation of the heavens above a desert that buries everything, eventually except the structures we build and the choices that haunt us.